Okay, it's still turn 21. Tir Na has been back in contact with me, Dakede. Or Dakede, I don't know how to pronounce that still. In any case, he's made a much more... We've discussed and negotiated a little bit more. He's made a much more interesting offer. Which is... this province, basically. Sinextra 144. There's a number of terms and conditions, but basically the gist of it would be... he gives me 144. We enter into what's essentially a game-long alliance. He can forge me amulets of the fish, which is honestly probably not necessary, but might be a nice little bit of flexibility. In exchange for this, I need to end my non-aggression pact with Agartha and attempt to destroy this army. Now, I've seen the makeup of this army. He's shown it to me on Discord. Sorry, I'm flipping back to Discord as I do more and more these days. It's an important part of the game, and I kind of regret that I can't easily swap back and forth between showing you Discord. So the army has an Ancient Lord, an Oracle of Subterranean Fires, 2 Oracles of the Dead. The important parts of the army are 23 Great Olms, 20 Magma Children, and 47 Seal Guard. Now, the Seal Guard... I think we've looked at them before, but just for reference, these are the Seal Guard. His capital-only sacreds. It's a big investment. This army is, like... because they're 45 gold each. So this army is about 1,500 gold of Seal Guards, 3 slow-to-recruit capital-only mages, plus an Ancient Lord, and then 23 Great Olms. Given this many Seal Guards, that's probably his entire population of Olms, or really close. So this really is Agartha's one shot. I understand that Agartha is also being attacked by Hinnom. Hinnom and Agartha had a non-aggression pact, which apparently Hinnom broke. So I'm not sure what's going on over there exactly, but if Tir Na doesn't get help, he's doomed. Like, that's pretty much incontrovertible. This army, I don't think Tir Na has the capacity to stop it. As I discussed earlier, I actually probably do have the capacity to stop it. Especially since I can communion. I can't use water power on land. Sorry, I was paused for a second to organize my thoughts. I can't use water power on land, but I can use communions. And so what I could do is, I'm recruiting slave mages here. So I have 3 slave mages, 4, 5 if I recruit for a second turn, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I could have 10 slave mages. I could form a communion with 4 slaves and 6 masters. And then I could churn out quite a few water elementals, because with 4 slaves, I'd use the water 3 guy as a communion slave. Beyond that, they all have water 2. Actually, I have 2 water 3 guys, so I'd use them both as communion slaves. 4 slaves would boost me up to water 4. One of my masters would cast Power of the Spheres, so all of my slaves would be of a higher water level than my masters. So my masters would be casting water elementals at 50 fatigue, spread among themselves and 4 slaves, and then halved. They could do that quite a number of times. That could be perfectly functional. And that would enable me to summon a lot of water elementals, and for the reasons that I discussed earlier, if I recall. I'm sorry, it's been a few hours since I recorded the last part of this episode. For the reasons that I discussed earlier, water elementals would actually beat these guys. So water elementals have, in case I didn't, just a quick refresher, water elementals have slash resistance. So obsidian glaives are slashing weapons. A water elemental that takes a hit from an obsidian glaive would take about 17 damage, which won't usually be enough to make it smaller. It will then retaliate with 4 armor-piercing bludgeoning attacks, each doing 20 damage. So that would effectively be 13 damage 4 times. Its attack skill is 14, which is quite a bit higher than this. Now, these Seal Guard have a very impressive bless that includes regeneration, so they will be regenerating 5 hit points a round. But it's not out of the question at all for a water elemental to actually kill a Seal Guard in 1 round. In 2 rounds, most definitely, and in 2 rounds, what's very likely to happen is a water elemental fighting a Seal Guard, which it would be 1-on-1 because Seal Guards are size 4. would lose 1 point of size, end up size 5, which doesn't actually reduce its attacks. I double-checked. Actually, they have to go down to size 4 before they lose an attack. It reduces its attack skill, its defense skill each by 1, reduces its hit points by 3, and its damage by 2 per attack, but it still gets 4 attacks. So it still actually single-handedly inflicts a pretty significant harassment penalty, which would lower defense skill. So these Seal Guards have a very wide Rainbow Bless. They have Blood Surge, they have plus attack skill, plus defense skill, fire and shock resistance, and regeneration. Which is honestly a really heavy... Oh, and magic resistance plus 3. So, and combat speed up. So it's a very heavy bless. Heavy Rainbow Bless. Which also means Agartha can't have much by way of scales. So it's interesting. It's an interesting choice for early age Agartha to do that. But yeah, the ancient... The Seal Guard and the Magma Children are not a problem, specifically because Water Elementals do really well at countering both of those things. Water Elementals can kill Seal Guards, Water Elementals have built-in Fire Resistance 15, so Magma Children actually can't hurt them reliably, and they kill Magma Children very easily. The problem with fighting this army is the Great Olms, 23 Mind Blasters, because my cheapest Chaff is mindless, and so isn't targeted by Mind Blasters. And Water Elementals are mindless and aren't targeted by Mind Blasters. So it's possible that fighting this army would just get my mages Mind Blasted to death. Now, in order to avoid that, I would just have to spam a whole bunch of Chaff that have brains. So I would just have to do this. Which I could do. I mean, there's no reason I couldn't do that. I would probably then get, like... Yeah, I think that would be the most efficient way to do it. So I could do that. And then down here, I could also spam out a few. These mages have to leave now, because of course this would have to happen within 3 turns. Because what's going to happen is Agartha's going to break this fort, march down here, break this fort probably instantly, because... Ancient Ones, and in particular Ancient Stone Hurlers, he has a few of those, have a ton of siege strength. Seal Guards have siege strength 8.6 each. Ancient Stone Hurlers have 14 each. So they have a lot of siege strength. They can bust this fort in 1 turn, no problem. So given that, if I were to do this, I would have to do it by gathering up my mages, moving over here 2 turns, taking my army back to Lake Vastness, gathering up a big army here, and then committing all my water gems and all the troops I can recruit in those 2 turns to attacking Agartha sieging Tir Na. That's possible. I could probably win that battle. I'm just not sure it would be worth it. And now Agartha is messaging me on Discord. Let's see what he thinks. He's talking about something completely unrelated. He's talking about Fomoria. Okay, that's fair. So I'm kind of undecided, because here's the thing. So Tir Na has asked me to intervene against Agartha. If I break this army, I mean, on the one hand, that seems like a good idea, because, after all, Agartha can threaten my lake to some extent, whereas Tir Na really, really can't. And I would get a free throne and fort out of it. On the other hand, siding with Agartha might let me just take that. Anyway, and I do have a non-aggression pact with Agartha. The other thing is just that it seems like taking Tir Na's side might be a losing proposition, just because... Yeah, I can probably beat this army by spamming water elementals at it. I can't actually, win a war against Agartha in any real way. I don't know how much Hinnom is actually fighting them, and I don't know what the ultimate... So I don't know what the ultimate... it would be a significant gamble. And if anything went wrong, Tir Na would crumble, and I would end up with nothing. Because if my army that I'm talking about gathering here was defeated by Agartha's army, that's it. That's half my mage corps and the entirety of my forces in this area. I would still have my aboleths, obviously, because they couldn't go on land if I wanted them to. But, I could also commit these 6 mages. Like, I could build a real heavy water elemental communion. I'm just not sure. The problem really is the Mind Blasters. Now, there's a way to counter Mind Blasters, but it requires, which is throwing down anti-magic, because Mind Blast is a check versus magic resistance. My mages have magic resistance 14. If I dropped, well, 15 base, but since I have magic seals, it's 14. I guess it would be 15 up here. If I drop anti-magic on top of that, that goes up to 19. They're very, very likely to resist a Mind Blast at MR 19. I just don't know if it would be enough, because Mind Blast targeting is somewhat unpredictable. They would probably go after the Slave Troopers, but it's not guaranteed, and they can't go after the Lobo Guard. They would love to go after the Lobo Guard if they could, but they can't, or the Shambler Thralls, but they're literally not valid targets. And Mermen actually have higher magic resistance, so using the Atlanteans would definitely be the move. So I don't know. I think I'm going to... I've been thinking about this for a while, and I'm still kind of undecided, which is weird. Well, because, like, look, okay, so the question here is, would I rather focus my armies on fighting Agartha or fighting Fomoria? Basically. That's basically the question. I've already kind of been geared up to fight Fomoria. It's easier to make early and easy progress against Fomoria. But fighting Agartha might have a higher dividend overall if I can take 144. I'll let you know in the next video, actually. This turn has dragged on way, way longer than long enough. But I'm leaning towards Fomoria. What I'm leaning towards doing, actually, is negotiating with Fomoria, is fighting Fomoria and negotiating with Agartha with the information that Tir Na is trying to bring me in on their side in order to get them to agree to let me have 144. Because if they'll agree to that, then I'll absolutely side with them. That's what I'm trying to get out of Tir Na. So we'll see. I'll let you know in turn 22. Alright, turn 22. We took Lake Fortune, no problem. We lost a scout. He has some Nemedian warriors, interestingly, patrolling in Stone Heavens, as well as a lot of province defense. This is like 15 or 16 points of province defense. So that's interesting. We've hit enchantment level 2, and are researching up towards enchantment level 4, which will, of course, give us anti-magic, and that's going to be a very, very important spell for us, both as an anti-ghost spell to prevent them from hurting our troops very badly, and as an anti-mind blast spell a little bit later in the game. Beyond that, we're sitting here in Lake Fortune, and we're actually staying in Lake Fortune. We're not moving. Fomoria does not appear to be in a position to attack me, and so I'm just gonna sit here and sight search with Torquil, He Who Breathes. My mages are moving up towards Lake Vastness. Excuse me. I had to pretty much turn down Tir Na. Staying on relatively friendly terms, but overall, I don't think... I was thinking about it. I don't think he can actually offer me anything that I can't just kind of take, really. We're going to take this province. I've got lots of troops up here. I'm recruiting more infantry and mages and stuff. And we may well be able to make a play for Sinextro, especially if he can delay this army at all with assassinations or some kind of nasty elvish tricks. If he can do that, then I may well be able to take Sinextro. We don't have any kind of non-aggression pact, really. We don't have a solid agreement, so I can definitely do that. Fomoria must be recruiting primarily Nemedian sorceresses and Nemedian warriors, because this hasn't really changed. So I think that's what he's doing, because they have glamour, of course. And beyond that, situation remains about as per usual, as per normal. I think I'm actually going to focus on Fomoria. I think taking Fomoria is the play here. I think we're going to build up armies of Amphibious and Siege Chaff, including Lobo Guard. Lobo Guard are a lot less vulnerable against Fomoria because Fomoria can't explicitly target mindless beings. And we will spam out a whole bunch of Lobo Guard and Slave Guardians, and we will attempt to march up on land and capture Fomoria itself. It'll be tricky, obviously, because we don't have, you know, the best of land troops. but I think we can probably swing it. If we just mass up slave mages. So we've got Mind Burn, which is very useful if he starts deploying mass numbers of skeletons against us, because skeletons are not viable targets for Mind Burn, so if it's mainly skeletons, then we'll just Mind Burn his mages. And we have Water Elementals, and Water Elementals are still quite effective at killing things on land as well as on water. Now, the only downside being that if we attack Fomoria in winter... Yeah, Fomoria is actually warm, so it looks like they took heat scales, which is great. You don't really want to use Water Elementals above ground during winter. Excuse me, it's late at night. You don't really want to use Water Elementals above ground during winter because they'll turn into Ice Elementals if it's cold, and Ice Elementals are bad. Ice Elementals are like worse Earth Elementals. They're just not very exciting or useful for that matter. Holbor is moving down south to site search. Therodos is actually pulled back, it looks like, and Fomoria might... I guess Fomoria might go and take that province back. Maybe. I don't know where Fomoria's actual army is. So that's a little distressing, slightly. I don't see any armies right near me, but of course I don't have any scouts in these provinces, so, you know, I'm a little bit short on intel. I'm leaving this scout in Therodos' land because I need scouts in Therodos' land. I actually need more scouts just overall, just period. The fact that you can't recruit underwater independent scouts bums me out. Like, you have to recruit scouts in forts, and it's kind of annoying. But in any case, we're just churning out the magery, building up a few troops, and we will, I think, be attacking Fomoria probably by turn. I want to say we're going to make our big play against the Fomorian capital by turn 30. From my forts, it does take 4 turns to get there, either of them. So that would mean that I'd have to launch my attack force by turn 26, which I think is reasonable. And especially if I kind of preserve my armies as they stand and just add on to them with all the troops I'm recruiting. I'm thinking that this will be the main thrust, probably. The main force of Siege Chaff. Especially if I'm using Lobo Guard primarily. I can have 30 of them being led by each slave priest and 20 some odd by each slave mage, and of course they have infinite leadership. I have these Amber Clan mages, but they can't come above ground, and neither can all your troops or belong to us. So it's going to be entirely down to slave mages and potentially slave princes. I might recruit another slave prince or two for leadership reasons, but other than that, it's going to be slave mages and slave priests. And that's honestly one big reason why Relay tends to use a lot of these Lobo Guard and Shambler Thralls and stuff. It's not that they're good troops. It's not even that they're super efficient troops, because they're not. It's that they're highly efficient Siege Chaff, and your mages can lead them. That's really the big thing. Mages and priests. So, that is the plan. That is the turn. Kind of a brief one, because not a whole lot that's super exciting is happening. Over here, the war between Rus and Ulm continues. It looks like Ulm is actually getting pushed back a little bit, but they have taken 73. There's some Chud skin shifters over here in 81 that might take it back depending on what happens, but we'll see how that develops. And of course we have recruited another Mind Lord. So Rafflecopter the Mind Lord is moving. Chnud, who I think has been sitting here for like a turn or two actually, because I forgot about him, is finally site searching for death, and Rafflecopter is moving up to the deep blue to provide support to my armies. And he'll be kind of moseying his way slowly towards the front, where eventually the war with Therodos will kick off. But for now, Fomoria is the enemy du jour. So, thanks for watching. I'll see y'all on turn 23. Okay, turn 23. We have hit enchantment level 3. The Oracle of the Dead has claimed the Throne of Fire, so that's a +3 attack bonus for Agartha. Interesting. That army will be moving on towards Tir Na's capital, I anticipate. Does also mean that whatever the assassins managed to accomplish, they did not manage to kill the Oracle of the Dead. Tuxa found actually 2 magic sites in Lake Fortune. So great, we've got Death Gems, Astral Gems, and Water Gems coming from this province. All fantastic. This is a great province, and I don't intend to give it up. Forgive my stutter there for a second. Mages and my Triton Commander are moving out. Tocht is actually going to stay here for the moment. No, actually, we're not going to leave him to stay here. We're going to move him north because we want some non-mindless troops coming out of the water, and we also want to use up these delicious resources. So that's the only place we're still recruiting troops. Recruiting slave mages down here. Rafflecopter is moving, as I said, working his way forward to kind of be near the front lines where the clash will happen. Research still not great, but it doesn't really need to be great right now. We're going to hit our goals. We will have enchantment level 4 in a couple of turns, which will give us anti-magic, and that's important. This army is going to move up here to take the Hungry Sea, and we can now actually see Fomoria's forces. Fomoria's got a lot of Furbolg warriors and horticulturists over here in Valador. Up here, they're summoning more Long Dead, so they're spending a lot of death gems on reanimation, which I think is just a mistake. Like, I just think it's silly of him to be sending Long Dead underwater. And over here, this is his main, the remainder of his Fomorian giants, led by Knosher, the Fomorian king, as well as a bunch of Long Dead. This is probably 40 or 50 Long Dead, maybe 30, plus his Fomorian giants and such. And there'll be about 10, 12 of those, maybe, something like that. In any case, Torquil and Yad Tadag are actually going to retreat to the Emerald Lake, because in the Emerald Lake I'll have Province Defense, which will hold down casualties if they attack me, and I also have more mages coming, which can, of course, summon water elementals. So Nugu, Pulu, and Vonones will join up with this army, and we will secure the water from Fomorian invasion once and for all. This is, once again, this province is technically in Therodos's area of influence, so we'll let them have that, but they've built up a pretty significant grip of Spectral Hoplites, Archers, and Peltasts. Now, Spectral Archers and Peltasts can't fire their weapons underwater, which makes them very, very useless, or relatively low use, at least I should say, in underwater combat. Spectral Hoplites are pretty decent in underwater combat, and they form, I think, the majority of that army. However, once again, spectral weapons of all kinds are defeatable by magic resistance. If you pass a magic resistance check when they attack you, you only take half damage. So, if you have any amount of protection and a decent magic resistance score, then ghosts just can't hurt you very much. This is what makes Triton Knights, by the way, possibly a good buy against ghosts. They have this magical attack, which will do a lot of damage versus ghosts because ghosts don't have any armor. So even though they only have 2 attacks per square, one of them being magical really, really does help. And these attacks might hurt ghosts sometimes too. It's a 25% chance. On top of that, they have okay protection, and they have magic resistance of slightly higher than average. So the combination of factors there means that they can potentially fight ghosts off really effectively if I can cast anti-magic on them. They are really gold hungry, and I don't have a whole lot of gold, which is why I'm not spamming them out. The other thing that you can do, of course, is just summon water elementals, because water elementals are also pretty high magic resistance. Like, I think water elementals have a base magic resistance of, like, 16, I think? 17, something like that. And then you can cast or 15. It's something pretty high. And then, of course, you cast anti-magic on top, and now ghosts just don't hurt them. They don't have magical attacks, but they throw out a bunch of attacks by themselves, and they can wear ghosts down slowly over time. So we're hopping up there to take that province. We're then going to bounce it down, because I think what's going to end up happening here is, I think in 2 turns we're going to attack Sinextro and try to overwhelm it, and secure a foothold on land that way. While, of course, Agartha is marching their army over here and taking Tir Na. So next turn, we take that. Turn after, we bounce down to here. So that's turn 20... So turn 24, we're up here. Turn 25, we're back. And we gather troops here. We have a whole bunch of troops, including a lot of Lobo Guard. Actually, recruiting the more Lobo Guard will maximize my siege strength, so I should just do that. I should just recruit as many Lobo Guard as possible. And I'm casting Voice of Tiamat a couple of times in order to try and find water magic sites. Got a bunch of gems on these mages. We'll have some gems on these mages. And so what we're going to do is take a whole bunch of mages, a whole bunch of troopers, and just storm ashore at Sinextro and try to take the fort in 2 turns. Right now we have a total siege strength of 87 in this province. Tooks I can actually just stay here and like patrol or something, I guess. So total siege strength of 87. Lobo Guard give you 1.4 siege strength each. We are recruiting 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. About 40 of them. So we're kicking our siege strength up by about 50 points or a little bit more. We still won't be able to crack the fort in 1 turn, but we will be able to invest it quite heavily. And so if we go boop, boop, that's 1, 2, 3. On turn 3, he'll probably be assaulting Tir Na and we'll take it. So we'll have to do a little bit of negotiating with Agartha. But I think we can make at least a pretty decent play to own Sinextro. The other alternative is we could actually move out this turn. Have this army stay in place. And attack next turn. Which would probably be the turn at which he reaches Tir Na. That might get us an extra turn, but I think it would also take us an extra turn to crack the place. 250 wall integrity. It probably has some number of elves inside. And our siege strength would be something under 130. Because, of course, we can't use... All your troops are belong to us, and we can't use any of the Gibboleths. We'll see. There are some other possibilities. For example, Arcoscephale is currently in a battle against Helheim. Helheim has been elfing their provinces with fast raiders. Arcoscephale has built up some troops. But, to be honest, not all that many. They do have a whole bunch of mystics in Arcoscephale itself, which could be very dangerous. But I think I could potentially contest and try and take Arcoscephale out, although it does have a more powerful fortress. So it's all kind of a question. Most likely, what I'll eventually end up doing is either I'll go into Sinextro, or I will actually attack Fomoria itself. That seems quite likely, especially if Fomoria insists on continuing to send armies underwater. Like, let me be clear, this army fighting this army, I think my army would win. I just don't want to gamble. And I'd rather pull back to where I have a little bit of my own province defense and can gather up some more mages. These mages in particular have the, the appropriate mage scripting. And where I'd have a couple more knights and troops and all that kind of stuff. So I'd rather gather up those forces before I go in, just because the extra mages will be a pretty significant power force multiplier. And once I destroy one army, if I kill Knosher, it's over. Like, he can't, at that point, in order to invade the water, he'll have to recruit another Fomorian king, which is expensive and takes 2 turns. And summon a whole bunch more Long Dead, recruit more Fomorian giants. He'll have to do all kinds of stuff just to get underwater again at that point. And so then I can kind of build up at my leisure. But yeah, there's a lot of potential on the coasts. I mean, hell, if I really wanted to, I could go after Ulm. And in fact, as an astral nation, going after Ulm might be smart, because I could attack Ulm here, and Ulm's low magic resistance would let me mind burn the hell out of them. Plus, actually, that's a good point. That's a shockingly good point that I'm actually a little bit irritated with myself I hadn't thought of before. Especially because his Svartalf is actually over here right now. Yeah, I totally could do that. I have Mind Burn. Damn, I'm so stupid. Why didn't I think of that? I'd have to shift all my mages back down to relay. And troops. Oh, God, I'm so dumb. You know what? I'm committed, though. He doesn't have Astral. Except for, what up, I got a great sword, so I should be able to do that pretty much throughout the entire game. Once he gets Iron Will, his mages can cast Iron Will on themselves, but even so, like, skeleton spam does not protect you from this strategy is the thing. Long Dead, if you kill all the commanders, Long Dead just crumble away, poof. And, Mind Burn, it hits the head, always, and it usually kills humans if it hits them, so, It's also 100 range, 100 precision, so it very rarely misses unless you're at literally maximum possible range. And, yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one for sure, for this context at least, where you have a very limited number of actual targets. And if you fight just normal armies of Ulmish, of course, you can send in your huge horde of Relayan Chaff while you Mind Burn his troops away. And Axe Warriors are super, super vulnerable to Mind Burn. As we saw in Accidental Ascension 1, remember I ran into a 20 Druid communion and they killed literally 100 of my Axe Warriors? Yeah, that. that can definitely happen. If I gather enough mages, it's a lot more expensive for Relay to do than Marverni, obviously, because slave mages are 3 times the price of druids or Sequani. But still very much doable. I have that many mages if I were to gather them all in one place. In any case, we're going to continue doing what we're doing right now, which is attacking Fomoria, because we're already committed to it, and it would take several turns just to reposition to strike Ulm. Ulm will be my next target, probably, just because they're the ones most vulnerable to that kind of shenanigans. But for now, we'll aim for Fomoria. We will opportunistically snipe Sinextro if we can, and if we can't, then we'll kind of, we'll contemplate Eternity and think about our next moves. But definitely, we're going to start moving out these troops for wherever it is they're going in the next turn. And where they're going will be either Sinextro, or it will be Fomoria. And for research, yeah, enchantment level 4 in 2 turns. After that, probably, I have Naiad Warriors now, so after that, probably Construction, in order to get a Robe of the Sea, and start summoning Kidneeds to help me go up on land. Because going up on land with strictly national troops, a little bit of a problem, but we'll see what we can do. In any case, thanks for watching. I'll see y'all in turn 24.